Welcome back to Talk of the Town with PG Sittenfeld. I hope you are having a great day, Cincinnati. We are so glad that you are spending part of it with us. And as you know, we like to welcome guests on our show from the upper ranks of politics, government, the media, television, and yes, Hollywood too. And I am delighted to now welcome to Talk of the Town a man who frankly needs no introduction, but I will give him one anyway. Jason Alexander is an award-winning actor, director, producer, writer, singer, comedian, best known for his role as George Costanza on Sittenfeld. And today he is with us to talk a little bit about the current presidential election. Jason Alexander, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir. Happy to be here.
We're delighted you're joining us, and let's get right to it. So tell us, what caused you to be such a big believer in this president so that you are going out on the stump for the man?
Well, the harder question would be what wouldn't make me do it. Just on a personal level, I think this is an extraordinary man. I think he's an extraordinary man in extraordinary times. I believe he's an honest man, a good man, a decent man, a family man. I believe he truly has the average American's best interest at heart. I believe in him as a human being. But even beyond that, he represents a series of values and policies that speak to my heart. I do believe that the policies he represents are the correct ones for reversing most of the disastrous problems our country is facing right now. Now, I understand that people disagree with that, and that there's a real debate in this election between financial policies that take us more towards austerity programs or take us more towards investment. Mitt Romney represents an austerity approach. The problem with it, it's never worked in history. In the history of this country, we've never seen it work. If it had, I think it would be a legitimate debate, as opposed to the policies of investment that President Obama is backing, which is exactly reminiscent of FDR and the New Deal, which is the program that got us out of the Great Depression. So we've seen these policies work before. We are seeing the good, steady beginnings of them working now. They need more time, and they need a heck of a lot more cooperation. So this is not just about getting the president back into the White House. This is about getting him a Congress that will knuckle down and do the work that needs to be done, and not the Mitch McConnell approach of we're going to obstruct everything and get this guy out of office.
You know, to
hell with the country.
As we sit here in Cincinnati, Ohio, careful what you say. Mitch McConnell, right across the river, so he might be able to hear you. But I really,
you know what? I would say it to his face. That was an abomination for an American congressman to make that statement and
to say his top priority is
to get rid of our president.
Right. No, not that we want to save the country, not that we want to save the economy, that we want to do political damage to someone. I really appreciate the dual nature of that answer because, I happen to agree with the president's policies. Some people don't. But I think you are right to bring up that this is a man who is a loving, committed husband, father. I mean, to know his character, I think, is to have faith in him. Have you always, Jason Alexander, been sort of politically inclined, politically oriented, or is this new territory for you?
Yeah, I came to it late. I've been talking to college students here in Florida, and they just blow me away because they are so engaged and so active and really working hard on this campaign. Thank God, because it's really about them. It's going to determine the quality of their lives for, I think, the next 20 years. But I came to politics relatively late. First son was born when I was 32 years old. That's about 20 years ago. And it wasn't until then that I woke up and said, oh, my God, not only am I a citizen of this country, I'm a citizen of the world. And I better find out what the heck's going on around here and get engaged. And that's when my commitment to being a true citizen began. And that's what I think this is. I hate that I get accused of, well, you're a celebrity, you're a Hollywood liberal, and you just shoot your mouth off. And I go, what I do for a living or what my particular bent on things are, it doesn't matter at all. I think everybody, no matter what their affiliation politically is, needs to get active, needs to be engaged, and needs to be a respectful part of this conversation. I'm just trying to do my part.
Yeah, and we're glad you are doing your part, and I'm sure that the President of the United States is glad you're doing your part. You actually touched upon something I was curious about. So you often hear Mitch McConnell and the sort of other Republicans say, oh, he's going to Hollywood to hang out with his Hollywood friends and throw a fundraiser, as though, folks who might be celebrities can't also have real values and want to get involved in that process. Or when you hear stuff like that, are you amused or are you a little bit sort of offended by the assertion that somehow inherently being part of Hollywood makes you a bad guy or not part of, quote unquote, the real America?
Well, Hollywood gets a lot of stuff thrown at it from all sides. Listen, we do some weird stuff out there. There's no question. we sometimes make fools of ourselves. But, for the most part, Hollywood is a microcosm of the country. We have most of the people that make it big in my business started from very humble roots.
Right.
And, they actually are very representative of the country as a whole. It's a crazy thing to say, he's going out to hang out with his Hollywood friends, but conversely, they won't yell at
the Koch brothers.
Somebody like Romney for hanging out with his industrial friends. You go where you have safe waters. Yes, Hollywood tends to run a little bit liberal.
Right.
And so we embrace democratic and progressive policy. So sure, you're going to come to Hollywood.
So let me ask you, the dominant media narrative to come out of the first debate, and this is not one that I personally agree with, but this is what's sort of been perpetuated in recent days, is, Romney was assertive and he was aggressive, and Obama maybe wasn't at his very best. As someone who, clearly you understand stagecraft, you understand how to put in a winning TV performance, is there any particular advice that you would offer to the president before he takes the stage for the second debate?
Yeah, well, now he's going to be prepared for what he may not have been prepared for the first time, which was to have a candidate that was no longer running on his candidacy.
Yeah.
He was completely coming off every major policy issue he had run on, and the president was going to stand there if he tried to address it, going, but no you didn't, no you didn't, no you didn't, and that would have been a juvenile approach. So instead he tried to keep going back to his own policies and making it different. But what he has to do the next time, if Ryan and Romney play that same game, Biden and the president have no choice but to say, now, wait a minute. Here's what you've said. And ladies and gentlemen, don't take my,
listen to their
Google
former words.
You go to YouTube and Google this, and you'll hear them say the exact opposite. The one thing you cannot accuse the president of is moving off of his principles. You may not agree with his principles, but he's steadfast. So if Romney and Ryan want to play the let's make a deal game of going anywhere the audience wants to go, it's got to be called on at this.
So foremost strategy for debate number 2, when they start to go off script and start saying things they never previously said and going against things they previously said, call them on it immediately.
Absolutely. One of the things that you can say about the president is he's a gentleman, and he doesn't like to play that kind of petty game. But he's going to have to find a way to talk some smack of his own. He can't let them do it. I say hire Key and Peele. They do that great parody about the president and his anger interpreter. I say let the anger interpreter come in and smack talk down some Romney.
And it is a shame that qualities like thoughtfulness and civility could ever possibly be sort of liabilities in a debate. But I guess that's where we are. We are talking with Jason Alexander here on Talk of the Town today, and I think about a range of folks from Ronald Reagan to Fred Thompson to Al Franken to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Are actors well suited or not well suited to become politicians and elected officials? Jason Alexander.
Well, they're probably well-suited to the performance aspect, and there is a performance aspect. But when, you talk about some of those guys are more prepared than others. For instance, Al Franken is a friend of mine, and Al, prior to going into politics himself, spent a decade educating himself, becoming much more well-versed in economics and foreign policy and constitutional law. He has no degree in any of this stuff, but he's done in-depth research. He built a team of advisors around him over a 10-year period that make him a very effective senator. If you add some, star wattage and some knowledge of how to talk to a crowd to that, then you can get an actor that's a very effective politician, absolutely.
So we are learning more about the politics of Jason Alexander. I have to ask the question, what were the politics of George Costanza? Was he also a pretty solid Democrat, or where in the political spectrum was he?
I think George was looking for anybody who would give him the best deal. George, how Romney flip-flops on issues? George would flip-flop on entitlements. What can you give me? That would be the George Costanza campaign team. What can you give me?
but given the choice between having the George Costanza endorsement and the Jason Alexander endorsement, the president clearly would rather have the latter.
Yeah, I think he's much smarter than to take the George Costanza endorsement.
We know we need to let you get back on the stump and working hard on behalf of the president. Just a couple more questions, and we really appreciate you joining us today. So you did play one of the most well-known TV characters, literally of all time, and I can imagine, to this day, people come up to you and say, "Oh, it's George from Seinfeld." Do you think of the show often, or is it more it's a chapter of your past, and you're in the moment now, or how often does that just enter your sort of your mental state?
Well, it's a little hard to get away from it. It's everywhere. I've done a lot of traveling throughout the country, throughout the world, and I have yet to find a place where the show hasn't had some impact.
Sure.
Even places where I thought, well, I'm just a face in the crowd here, it has not proven to be so. Listen, I tell you what's great about Seinfeld. Yes, we're always proud of it. All of us are proud of the show. We love doing it, and we're thrilled that it's had this kind of impact. But more importantly, acting can be a pretty selfish profession. You kind of do it because you love it. But this is a show where I get letters still every week from parents that lost a child, or kids that lost a parent, or someone going through an illness, or soldiers overseas, or some of our vets saying, you know what, we went through some stuff. We thought we'd never laugh again, and you guys got us through this.
Wow.
Kept our humanity going. And when you get letters like that, you go, wow, this has become more than a show. It's become something other that we put out into the atmosphere. And when you hear stuff like that, I can never, I would never look back on that show that has produced a result like that and not be proud and honored to have been part of it.
Well, it's clear that you are, so sincere in your convictions, and you don't have to be doing what you're doing right now, but you're doing it because you care about the future of the country. So might we ever see Jason Alexander's name on a ballot? I'm thinking particularly about you edging out Alec Baldwin for mayor of New York City. What do you say?
Oh, I would hate to go up against Alec. That would be tough competition. He only plays the buffoon from The Office. I play the buffoon from Seinfeld. I don't know which one of us would fare worse with people's imagination.
Well, no, in all seriousness, you have strong opinions. You're out there helping fight the good fight. I think about folks like Fred Thompson, like Al Franken, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Would you think about it?
I would. Like Al, I am woefully undereducated, I think, for any of the key skills that a politician should bring to the table. So I would have to devote, quite a bit of time to really educating myself and building my team. And it's not out of the question. I mean, it's something I deeply care about. But, the truth is, you're very sweet. To most of the world, I am George Costanza, and people don't think I played that.
I think America would vote for that man. I do. I really do.
Know. They think I am that guy, and I don't know if they'd want a congressman or a representative running around going "Serenity now" and shrinkage.
Well, Jason Alexander, thank you so much for joining us on Talk of the Town. And let's first get the president reelected, and then let's turn our attention to Jason Alexander, 2016, 2020. We'll keep our minds open.
I'll tell you what, PG, if I announce, I'm announcing with you first.
All right, we'll stay tuned. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Really appreciate Jason Alexander joining us on the show today. And we may have just had a future candidacy announced right here on Talk of the Town on 1230 The Buzz of Cincinnati. So stay tuned. And, I do think it's so easy to see people on the cover of People magazine or, on a show like Seinfeld watched by I think it was like 100 million people watched must-see TV, something like that. And I think it's really refreshing to know that these are real people. They do have real convictions, and they're out there caring about the country like the rest of us. So very grateful that he took the time to join us on the show today, and we're so glad that you joined us too. Have lots of great guests, a lot more coming up. You're listening to 1230 The Buzz of Cincinnati. We'll be right back.